Alright, not to make you feel old, but did you know that the Nintendo 3DS was released in 2011? Yes, that's 9 years ago. Although the brand new Nintendo Switch and the Switch Lite kinda killed any hopes of seeing new games for the 3DS, we have to admit that this little handheld was one of a kind. There have been a bazillion games released for this little thing, and even the console itself has had many revisions during its life cycle. The 3DS, the 3DS XL, the 2DS, the new Nintendo 3DS, the new Nintendo 3DS XL, the new Nintendo 2DS XL. Gosh. Well, today I have decided to pick the 10 games out for this system that I enjoyed the most, the ones I played all the time when they were out, the ones I wouldn't mind going back to enjoy them another time. Hey, I'm Nico, and here's my top 10 Nintendo 3DS games. Here we go. You know me, I'm a platformer guy. I love playing those 2D side-scroller games like Mario, Rayman and Donkey Kong. And this last one is my pick for this list, as Donkey Kong Country Returns is a fantastic game for the 3DS. Obviously, I am aware that this is originally a Wii game, which was also fantastic by the way, but I feel like the 3DS remake is even better. Even though the 3DS is way less powerful than the Wii, the graphics don't look bad on it, but the best part about this remake are the new controls. Not to hate on motion controls, but having to shake the Wiimote all the time to roll and attack was pretty tedious, so having the option to just press the Y button is a blessing. Donkey Kong Country Returns is a very good game, with tons of different level mechanics, amazing areas to explore, and this 3DS version is more accessible, by allowing players to have more hearts and more items to make their life easier. Because if you didn't know, Donkey Kong Country is a very tough game series. If you haven't tried the Donkey Kong Country game yet, now is the time to play this gem. Playing Super Smash Bros. Always was a TV experience. You gather friends around in your living room, you plug in the controllers, and you're good to go. Well, you know what? The Nintendo 3DS wasn't having any of that though, and decided it deserved its own version of that game. Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS is the first handheld game in this series, and oh boy did it deliver the goods. It was revealed at the same time as Smash Bros. For the Wii U, and it was already announced that every single character from the Wii U version would also appear in the 3DS version. In other words, this handheld game is not a downgrade. It has lots of stages, lots of characters, an exclusive single-player game mode called Smash Run, which allows you to move through big environments, collecting power-ups and defeating enemies. And if you don't feel like inviting your friends at home to play via local gameplay, you can also get online and play for fun or for glory. It even has the DLC characters. I mean, come on, this is epic. When the Nintendo 3DS was first launched, Nintendo was trying really hard to sell us on the whole third dimension gimmick, and one of the ways to do so was to release older games remade with beautiful graphics and stereoscopic 3D. Star Fox 64 3D was a pretty good candidate for that job, but the real system seller for me was The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D. That's all they needed to say for me to instantly go out and buy a 3DS. Ocarina of Time is a masterpiece, and I own it on the N64, on the GameCube, twice, on the Wii's Virtual Console, and yet I bought a whole system just to play it again. That's how good it is. This 3DS remake has everything the classic game had, but it features better graphics, smoother animation, improved dungeons, and it even comes with the Master Quest version of the game that features more difficult dungeons. Now, if only Nintendo would remake that game in HD for my Nintendo Switch, then I'd be even happier and I'd buy it again. Yep, I'm a sucker. This next pick is really controversial for me, because New Super Mario Bros. 2 is all about collecting coins, and you know I usually try to do the complete opposite. Jokes aside, New Super Mario Bros. 2 might not be the best entry in that series, but it's still a really solid platformer nonetheless. It contains 8 different worlds in the story mode, features the leaf from Super Mario Bros. 3, and introduces the gold flower, which gives you the ability to turn blocks into coins. The point of this game is to collect 1,000,000 coins, meaning you'll want to touch as many as you can. And New Super Mario Bros. 2 even includes downloadable level packs that allows you to collect them faster. Some of those DLC packs are super difficult, which is always welcomed in a game like this. If you have a friend or a sibling around, you can play the entire game via local co-op, with one player being Mario and the other one being Luigi, which is pretty cool. Although you cannot actually carry Luigi in your hands like you can in New Super Mario Bros. Wii and U. So you know, I won't be able to make a challenge in which I try to beat the game while carrying Luigi, which makes me a little bit sad. Alright, I have to warn you guys that I'm not the biggest Fire Emblem fan, and I'm not really familiar with the whole story and lore, but I do have to admit that Fire Emblem Awakening was a pretty fun strategy game. Apparently, you play Fire Emblem games for the storyline, but by playing this game, I soon realized that I didn't really care about it and was more focused on the gameplay mechanics. Basically, it is a turn-based strategy game, where you move your soldiers around the battlefield and you try to complete the mission objectives without losing a single character, because if they die in a map, they die forever. Unless you're a noob like me and you pick the casual mode, where you can enjoy having them back once the mission is done. I feel like this Fire Emblem game was more accessible than ever and introduced a lot of new people to the franchise, which is now even bigger and more popular. So you can hate on it, but I think it did a great job. Kid Icarus is one of those franchises that always are on the back burner for Nintendo. You know, releasing a single game every decade or so, kinda like F-Zero. But the 3DS decided to bring this series back and better than ever. Kid Icarus Uprising is an action-packed game created by Masahiro Sakurai, the same dude that worked on Super Smash Bros, so you know this game is gonna be pretty good. Basically, it is divided into two gameplay mechanics. The first one is an on-rail shooter, where you use the circle pad to move Pit around and dodge enemies, while moving your crosshair using the touchscreen to shoot baddies. Then, Pit will lose the power of flight, and you'll be moving freely on the ground, defeating more evil enemies and exploring areas. I'm not going to lie, this control scheme is really difficult to get used to, and you're going to get cramps from holding the 3DS with a single hand. Thankfully, the game did ship with this weird plastic stand that made it easier to play, but still, that's kinda weird when you look at it. But once you finally get it and get good at the game, then you'll get to experience one of the best games ever made by Nintendo, with funny dialogue, crazy bosses, many enemies, and so much more. Seriously guys, give this game a go, it is worth every penny. Luigi's Mansion never really was my favorite game of all time. I mean, it was pretty fun, don't get me wrong, but it was very slow-paced and having to backtrack through the same mansion all the time got old quick. The 3DS sequel, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, on the other hand, decided to go with a more handheld approach, dividing the game into multiple mansions and dividing those into missions. So that means you can play the game for like 15 minutes at a time and still make great progress into the story. This doesn't mean the game got simple though, as you have way more ways to interact with the scenery. You'll need to be using your vacuum to suck up and carry around items. You'll even need to move scared toads around, which is pretty funny looking. This game has amazing bosses, all very different from one another, and features a co-op multiplayer mode where you have to work with other Luigis to defeat ghosts. If you enjoy Luigi's Mansion 3, you'll definitely love Dark Moon. You cannot have a Nintendo 3DS best game list and not have Mario Kart 7 in there. This game was so revolutionary when it first came out. It was the first Mario Kart game where you had a number in the title, but that's beside the point. It was actually the first Mario Kart game where you can actually pimp your ride. Choose a buddy, a set of wheels, and a glider, and you're good to go. Why a glider, you might ask? Well, that's because Mario Kart 7 is also the first game to allow you to fly in the air and also to go underwater. These new mechanics led to brilliant new tracks that are already amazing to play on. The character selection in Mario Kart 7 is kind of odd to say the least, like seriously, Queen Bee and a Wiggler, but no Waluigi? This game has 16 new tracks and 16 retro ones, and the old school tracks have never looked so good. Well, you know, until Mario Kart 8 came out with the whole HD thing, but you know what I mean. You can also play this game online with people from all over the world, so if you're looking for a great gaming night, Mario Kart 7 will never disappoint. The 3DS was home of many remakes for Zelda games, namely Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, but there was also one original game released for it. The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. This game is meant to be some sort of spiritual sequel to A Link to the Past on the SNES, having a very similar world and game style, but let me tell you that this game is so much more than a simple remake or sequel. A Link Between Worlds changed the classic Zelda formula, now allowing you to complete any dungeons in any order, as long as you have the correct item to enter said dungeon, and you get the items by renting them at Ravio's store. Renting an item means you lose it if you die, so you'll have to be extra careful. Those dungeons are also super cool, and they use the 3DS's stereoscopic 3D to its full potential, providing puzzles that require you to move up and down different floors. There's also this new ability where Link can turn into a painting on a wall and move alongside it, which is very cool and is also used to visit the Dark World and defeat enemies. Yeah, there's another Dark World in this one. It's actually called Lorule instead of Hyrule. Get it? That's a bad pun, Nintendo. You should be ashamed of that. You know what's better than a 2D Mario game? A 3D Mario game. And this is why Super Mario 3D Land is my favorite 3DS game of all time. It took everything that made 2D Mario games fun and combined it with some moves and abilities from 3D Mario games. No longer do you collect stars and explore paintings or galaxies. No, instead you'll be clearing tons of very different levels, collecting hidden star coins, and grabbing flagpoles to complete stages. I feel like this was made to better fit the handheld aspect of the 3DS, but it turned out to be such a good change that a sequel to this game was made on the Wii U. Super Mario 3D Land never ends. It is a game with so many levels, you'll start wondering if you're just playing endless Mario Maker 2. There's 8 worlds to explore at first, but once you clear those, you'll get to explore 8 more. Now that's a lot of bonus content if you ask me. This game is not the most difficult one of them all, so if you want an extra challenge, may I suggest trying different challenges on this game, like, you know, beating it without touching a single coin, or maybe even without going left? Is it possible? Stay tuned. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe and to hit the notification bell to know when I post a new one. If you enjoyed that list, well, give this video a like, and if you want to see more, well, tap the cards on screen right now. I've done lists on a lot of Nintendo consoles, and I'm not planning on stopping yet, so this is going to be epic. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one.